Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Early Days, where entrepreneurship meets storytelling, proudly presented by Prowse Barrette LLP. Get ready to be inspired by the individuals at the forefront of business. Now, today we're speaking with Bruce Alton, a founder, investor, and advisor known for his innovative approach to new product development and investing in innovations applied to traditional industries. Bruce brings over 3 decades of expertise in guiding companies through strategic growth and resilience. Bruce, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
You had one of the first internet development companies, and I just go, okay, you're way smarter than I am.
Well, that means I'm really old.
How did that come about?
Well, I was coming out of business school. I'm born and raised in Edmonton, and I went to U of A business school. And just through luck and circumstance, I met a couple individuals, really talented technical people. I'm non-technical, and they had started this company. We're actually making, it's called Blackstone Multimedia. We're making CD-ROMs. So, a listener of a certain age will remember what CD-ROMs are. Most people don't. And so we did some work for Apple Computer, and we had a good run at that. And then the internet kind of came out, and it was really just emerging, and people are developing web pages. And so we shifted really quickly to the internet. And it was one of those areas that, it just really exploded. And that really kind of set off my career in terms of just being really interested in technology and how can we apply it, again, as you said, to traditional industries. So
when you're starting this company with these other gentlemen that, as you said, are more technical, how do you suddenly, because this is brand new, so that fascinates me in your mind as to how you think, okay, and then how do we monetize this?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because I think with new technologies, and it's interesting because that was really the dawn of the internet in the early 90s. Today, we're at the dawn of artificial intelligence, and there's actually a lot of really interesting parallels. And I think as someone who's non-technical, I maybe didn't understand the technology, but you get enamored by it, and sometimes you can get fooled by the technology. And we saw, of course, back then there's kind of the dot-com bombs and crash of companies that didn't really succeed. And I think the lesson I got out of that, which has taken me throughout my career, and now as I look at AI deals, is that you always have to understand the problem that you're trying to solve. It has to be a problem first. And most of the failures of technology companies are really because of they're developing this technology. It's better, faster, cheaper. It's amazing, but if it's not solving a problem, no one really cares, and the eventual ultimately fail. So that's a really key lesson, is that no matter what you're doing, if it's a shoe store or a really advanced technology, AI, the internet, you really have to start with a problem, and then you develop a technology that will ultimately solve that problem.
So what was your next step then after this company?
I got involved in a couple of venture capital initiatives, and then I spent 7 years at a local company called Microline, which is a spin out of the University of Alberta, and we made these very, very small chips in the scale of microns. So there's 1,000 microns in a millimeter, and very, very small components that went into optical switch devices. And so I was, again, kind of the business guy that came in. Most of the people were very technically focused. And we had a great run. We went, we about tripled in size the time I was there. And then I spent 10 years as chief operating officer of a real estate development company, a local company. And we built a number of buildings. And it was kind of going really into very traditional businesses. And I was able to do that. And then I've started, after that, started a company called A Partners Ventures.
Okay, and so this is your current company, 8 Partners Ventures. So talk about the beginning of developing that company.
Yeah, so A Partners is really a culmination of my career, in the sense that I was always involved in new business development, product development. And I was really fascinated by the fact there are the people that could create something out of nothing, meaning that you have an idea. It might be an idea for a product, it might be an idea for a business, and it's nothing, it's just an idea. But the people that actually can translate that into something that's real, that's a product that solves people's problems. They create wealth, they hire people, they make money doing it. Like I find that notion is amazing. And I had a university, I had a fence building business, and it was just a friend and I, let's start this business. We had an idea, and by the end of the year, we'd hired people and we got projects, we built fences, and we'd made enough money to pay the tuition for the following year. And I just really realized when I started A Partners, that was really my passion in life, is helping people create something out of nothing. So A Partners Ventures partners. We're an advisor. We're a founder of companies. We're also investors in businesses. And I really want to be just help those companies that are doing that process of developing products or starting new businesses. Maybe I can help them accelerate it by teaching them or telling about the mistakes that I made along the way, but also de-risking it by, perhaps narrowing in their decision choices and just based on my own experience that I've been able to, the things I've learned over the years.
So when a company approaches you for support, I guess would be a great word, how do you know, okay, that one excites me, that one I will take on? Yeah, you can't take everybody that comes to you, obviously.
No, that's a really good point, because I didn't know what I was going to do, quite frankly, in how I was going to structure it, and I really needed a filter. So I do three things. So I help companies, I advise companies how to spin out new products, actually very large businesses that, they're really good at doing this, but when they shift over here, they're actually not very good at that because they try to apply all the things they learned here over here, and that's where it kind of falls apart. So that was one area. And then I do a lot of mentorship with startups. I don't charge them for it, but it's kind of those early stage companies that, they'll advance and hopefully create successful businesses. And then we're an investor in companies as well. So in terms of what I like to invest in, you really do need a filter. So I've got an investment thesis for A Partners about how can we use artificial intelligence to solve Alberta's business problems. And the reason I did that was AI, artificial intelligence, is really significant, obviously, as an industry. And I learned from the internet years that the rapid growth of a technology or an industry can really cover up a lot of mistakes. It can allow you to shift and move because of the growth. And also the University of Alberta, we have this tremendous artificial intelligence talent here. And so I learned that the University of Alberta is top 3 in the world in terms of research output related to artificial intelligence and machine learning over the last 25 years. Like, we have this amazing talent in the city. And I'm like, okay, well, that's interesting. And then I said, well, I don't want to leave Edmonton. I actually want to see if we can apply these technologies here. So I looked at it and say, how can we use AI to solve Alberta's business problems? Meaning, like, where are we strong here? Like, where could I have local clients? So it would kind of skew towards industrial applications, construction, engineering. And so that was kind of the focus. Where could I find opportunities in that space? So I made a couple investments. I don't have super deep pockets, made a few investments in some local companies. And then I've just recently started a new company called RoBIM Technologies, which is the intersection of robotics and construction, and robotics kind of being under that umbrella of AI as well.
So how does that work? How does RoBIM Technologies work?
Well, it's what we're doing is we're building a robotic fabrication module to fabricate construction components on or near building sites. And the reason I got into it is I was in the real estate industry for 10 years, and I was a business person, but I had a background in technology. And I was always really frustrated by, like, why does construction companies not use the same technologies that virtually every other industry were utilizing? So I started doing some research and realized, the industry's huge, obviously. I think we take it for granted, but it's a multi-trillion-dollar industry. It's a $30 billion industry in Alberta alone, employs 250,000 people. So it's a really big industry, and it's growing, but it's actually a terrible industry. It's a terrible industry in terms of its results. So if you look at studies over the last 75 years about how industries are more productive, so they can produce more value, per hour of labor. There's, agriculture is 12 times more productive, manufacturing 8 times more productive. And you can kind of understand why. There's a lot of automation, there's robotics, we're just more efficient in doing things. Construction, over the last 75 years, guess what the productivity growth has been in construction?
I can't say.
0.
Oh my goodness,
It has been 0 over the last 75 years. It's hard to believe, and I didn't quite believe it. I saw some studies, and then I just found study after study after study. And I was like, why is this the case? And there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of new regulations that make it difficult for companies to compete. They're not early adopters of new technologies, and you can kind of understand why, because you've got, you can't implement new technologies in building a building because someone could get hurt or the building could fall over. So it's understandably a very risk-adverse sort of industry. So that was kind of a backdrop. That's like, yeah, this is a terrible industry. It kind of sucks in a way, but that creates an opportunity. So I really felt there was an opportunity if we could find a solution, and then it turns out there's some good AI solutions. So I was looking around for opportunities, and I met a professor at the University of Alberta another little known fact that the University of Alberta has one of the top construction engineering programs in Canada, but also globally. And so we have people internationally coming here to study at the U of A to look at how we can develop new technologies for construction. So there's one professor, his name is Jesse Kang, and he immigrated here as a professor at U of A, and his whole career, he's from Taiwan, his whole career was focused on robotics, construction, and automation. And so he and the other professors set up these labs, and then they attract these really bright students. And so two of the students, one guy, his fellow's name is Jason Yang, and the other one's Tim Tai. They're both PhD candidates, and their whole academic career was developing technologies to, robotics technologies for the construction industry. So I met with them and I said, wow, you guys have really got some great things going. So we decided to start the company RoBIM, and we're really taking the technologies they've developed in the lab and commercializing them. And our goal is to really make construction much more automated and much more sustainable. So we're developing this robotic fabrication module that you can actually bring to a construction site to fabricate things like wall panels or, retrofit panels or millwork, and really reduce the need for labor. And that's the other issue in the construction industry. If you talk to anyone now, labor is the big issue. And so robots, we're not going to get rid of humans, but we're actually going to allow humans to do things they actually want to do and maybe not work in extreme environments. And we can use humans and robots can collaborate together to make construction less expensive and take shortened schedules as well.
Of course, visually in my head, I'm thinking I'm seeing a robot at the construction site with a hammer and nail. That's not quite that. Not quite that.
No, the way we're doing it, there are robots that try to replicate, the different trades. If it's a drywalling robot or a painting robot, there's things like that. What we're doing is we're taking a standard robot arm that you'd see in any manufacturing facility, but at the end of the arm, they have these things called end effectors. And so that tool at the end of the arm, it can nail, it can screw, it can pick things up and move them around. So, but there's different end effectors for one robot arm, so it's a multifunctional robot. Then you can combine those things together and you can actually fabricate components. So the core competency we have is we have those end effectors, those robotic capabilities, but the real power is that we can actually simulate the fabrication of it in a digital environment. So the company is called RoBIM. Ro is for robotics, and BIM is for building information modeling. So a BIM model of a building is like the digital model of it, and architects will create a BIM model for the design considerations, but it's also being used more and more in construction, but also to operate the building on an ongoing basis. It's just a really detailed model of the building. So we can take a component of that, like imagine a wall panel or an internal partition wall, bring that into our software and fabricate it in quotation marks in a virtual environment. So in a graphical user interface, we can fine tune all the planning and all the process steps. And then what our software does is automatically generate the robotic programming codes. So it programs the robot. So previously, you'd need a person to do all the manual programming. Those people are in very high demand, they're very, very expensive, and it's really hard to do. So we're trying to take the friction out of the process. So there's a lot of AI pieces related to that just streamline the whole process. And so we're taking all that and trying to put it in a package. So imagine a robot inside of a shipping container that we can actually bring to the site, and then we can do made-to-measure components, and we can fabricate components on site.
And for a company, how do they leverage these improvements in AI? For obviously, because you don't have the labor costs, but now you've cut down the costs of the computerization of it. So is there a money saving at the end of the day?
Well, that's a really good point, because no one's going to buy it unless there's yes. They could actually save money. So that goes back to my earlier comment about being problem first, is that we really need to understand the construction industry, their problems. We need to develop a solution that works over and over again, and we need to make sure it's cheaper, less expensive than what they're doing, or shorten their schedule. So the onus is on us to do that. But the advantage we have here in Edmonton, if you really think what we're strong in terms of industry, it's construction and engineering. I mean, we're the headquarters of Stantec, which is a top 10 engineering firm in the world. The largest general contractor in Canada is PCL. It's headquartered here. And then all those other people in the engineering field and the construction industry, they're the ones with the domain expertise. And the other, just going back to your first question, what I learned early in my career is that we can be enamored by these technologies, but customers don't buy technologies, they buy products. So we need to apply that with someone who has domain expertise. And so we're really fortunate to have all the people we need to talk to in construction. So we're trying to design our solutions based on their needs. So there's a company in town called Clark Builders, a large general contractor.
Huge, huh?
They've been wonderful. They've been providing us with a lot of advice and say, well, this is how you do it. And if we're going to buy something, this is what we actually need. And that gives us the game plan that we need to actually build a product versus a technology.
What a huge game changer, though, for a construction industry. If it's 0% movement in 75 years to suddenly do this is not only a game changer here in Edmonton, but
oh, it is, and that's
everywhere.
We kind of look at it from an Edmonton perspective. Like we have the problems we have in Alberta in construction are the same problems they have in the US, but actually all around the world. And so this also creates an opportunity for us here in Edmonton, in U of A, and we've got a great, Nate, the Polytechnic with all the tradespeople. Like the trades of the future are going to be very different than the trades today. What's going on in Amy, like the AI side and the construction engineering side, there's probably 10 different startups I've seen in this space, but we can sell this to the rest of the world. So this is a massive opportunity for Edmonton where we can actually commercialize these technologies and not just do it for us, but actually create wealth by really exporting these developments to other parts of the world.
It's exciting. Earlier you had discussed that one of your pillars is mentorship.
Yeah.
And so with the startups that you do help out, what key advice do you find that you're giving to these entrepreneurs, especially in the early stages?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I was recently part of a program at the university. It's called Lab to Market, and I was just a facilitator to provide mentorship to these companies. Or actually, they're not companies; they're masters and PhD students who have got these great commercial ideas, and they're just convinced this is going to change the world, and they're fascinating. Like, I understand technology, but I don't understand what they're doing. But the whole point of the program is they have to go out and talk to 100 people. And it's amazing. Within the first week, after talking to 5 people, everyone's pivoting and changing and moving in different directions because they realize they haven't talked to anyone who actually has the problem that they think they're going to solve. So my advice is very consistent, is you have to be problem first. You have to understand your customer's problem from their perspective, not what you think it is. And then on top of that, there's a bunch of other things you have to do really well. You have to have the right people in place, and you got to have financing. You got to understand who's going to finance your business. So there's a lot of block and tackle sort of things, but it's really the starting with the problem first is the key piece of advice for any entrepreneur. And
then you would tailor your advice to the rest of the mentorship, or once they start with that base.
Yeah, they need different advice at different times.
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on the situation, the market they're going after, the different part of the world that they're targeting in terms of their target audiences. Sometimes it's a cultural thing internally, or they don't appreciate or understand certain types of the business side, or the business people don't appreciate the technology side. So you kind of have to do a read. And I think, a good entrepreneur sees they're really good at connecting the dots. Like they kind of see the pattern from all the noise. And I think that's what I've been able to do, or it's taken me 35 years. But you kind of over time, you see patterns, and you might not be able to articulate it, but you can say, yeah, those guys are going to do really well, or this isn't going to work at all. And it's really for me to figure out why is that, and then try to explain it back to them.
As I look at that, you've been recognized, I know, as one of Alberta's 50 most influential people, and community is hugely important to you, because I can hear it coming through. You are your U of A alumni. I could tell you're very proud about that, and you're very proud of Edmonton. It's not a city you've wanted to leave.
Yeah, no, I that happened to me, that influential Albertan piece happened a long time ago. And I think what it means is that I was, at a young age, I was really able to take advantage of what was offered to me in the community. And I was very, very fortunate to have, I don't think we called them mentors, but just older people that I kind of admired were open to giving me advice, and I could talk to them. And I had a chance to sit on some boards at a young age and met some people that were really kind to me, and they really gave me some good advice, sometimes advice I didn't want to hear. And I really feel it's been instrumental to what I've been able to accomplish. And I think it's just mandatory that we all have to give back to the community. It really, especially in Edmonton, it's really what we need what makes a community successful. And in many times in my career, I've had to recruit people to Edmonton internationally. And, you know, it's hard to recruit people here, but once they're here, you can't get rid of them. Like they want to stay. And I think a big part of it really is the community. They might come for a job opportunity, but they stay and they raise a family. So it's incredibly important to have, take from the community. It really can advance you, but you've got to give back.
You know, it was funny you said that because the Canadian Country Music Association, we just had Country Music Week here in Edmonton, and they said out of all the cities they've been in the last few years, we're one that goes, I don't know, but I know a guy. All of 100%. Us to our committee, I know a guy. I know a guy, and that's Edmonton. Well,
it's funny. I sat on the board of the World Track and Field Championships back in 2001, and I remember all these other cities that hosted these championships, they would come here and they just couldn't believe all the volunteers that we had that were, you know, lining the marathon route and doing all this stuff. And they're like, how much did you have to pay them? Like, that's what they're asking her. Like, they're volunteers. They just couldn't believe it. And over and over again, you hear those stories, how people are like just really amazed with this community. Yeah, you're not wrong at all. So as you look to the future, what do you see for your company? So for RoBIM, we're really excited by the fact that AI is growing, robotics is growing. We're seeing, you know, in that particular sector, for all the reasons we've been talking about, there's just a tremendous opportunity for growth in that space. So I see opportunities for A partners to invest in that space, but I'm now CEO of RoBIM, and I'm really excited the growth in that. There's a bunch of other startups. So this is something that, with my investment thesis, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, I was like, this is a no-brainer for the city of Edmonton. And now a number of people are kind of getting behind it. The Chamber of Commerce and Edmonton Global just kind of announced a few things they want to do. So I'm really excited by the intersection of construction, engineering, AI in Edmonton. I think it's tremendous. And do you have a feel as to when that could possibly be rolling out? I don't know. I mean, I know there's a couple strategy pieces being put into place, and there's some really, you know, the university is fully on board, and it's kind of a no-brainer. Like, you think construction industry is $30 billion industry in Alberta, and if we can improve it, make it more productive by 1 or 2 percentage points, like, that's a huge dollar value. So I think it would make sense that, I think the government is one of the biggest builders in the province. So I think they'll think it makes sense. We have all these headquarter companies, PCL, Clark, others that are really excited. Nate is excited as well. So I think I'm really bullish on this case. And how about for A Partners Ventures? Well, that's probably one and the same. I mean, I'm really excited for this space. I do, you know, I try to do some mentoring through A Partners, but I think it's really, that's going to create some opportunities for A Partners as well. Yeah, exciting times. And AI, I think you're right. As I think back to the very beginning of our program today, where you're talking about you were at the ground level of the internet, and here you are, AI. Yeah, and to your point earlier, I mean, it really has to do with a lot of the community. There's so many people here that are willing to help out the different startups, and then, well, you know, established companies are helping startups. So we will be successful if we really push that community component. Yeah. We love Edmonton. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Prowse Barrette. As we conclude another episode, let's all reflect on the journey ahead. Prowse Barrette is here to light the way for entrepreneurs, offering support from corporate services to real estate and beyond. Embrace the challenges, and remember, you're not alone on this path. Join us next time on Early Days for more stories of innovations and persistence. Bruce Alton, thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.
This series is proudly produced by the team at Road 55. Road 55 creates content that connects. For more information, visit our website at road55.ca.